and it bounces back. I hit the car, boom, my life flashed before my eyes. Welcome back to Storytime. Today I'm gonna tell you a story about the time that I went to the hospital for something actually really embarrassing. Now, before I get started, I wanna show you my new setup. I got headphones, I have a mic and all that good stuff. So it's kind of like a podcast setup, but I wanted to do my story times as well to continue those because I feel like those are pretty good and you guys seem to like my stories. Now, this story is a little bit embarrassing, but I'm gonna tell it anyways. I actually went to the hospital because I got hit in my, for lack of a better word, my private parts. It was my, you know what I'm saying? I got hit, you know, when you get hit in the balls, that's for the lack of a better word. I just had to say it that way. I'm sorry, I know. I don't know how else to put it, but it just is what it is. I got hit so hard there that I had to go to the hospital. So I was never really, I guess a ladies' man growing up. Like I never had really good, you know, confidence or charisma or anything with the ladies. I actually didn't even have a girlfriend till I was 17 years old was my first girlfriend because I just lacked the confidence. And every time that I liked a girl, I would pretty much run away from her. Like I had these next door neighbors and they invited the girl that I liked over when I was like in 3rd grade. And I was just so scared. I spent the whole time in my room. Now, why am I telling you this? Because this leads up to the story. It was in 8th grade. I had my friend over. His name was Danny. He lived in Oklahoma and he decided to spend the summer with us. Now, Danny was kind of confident when it came to girls. He would just talk to them and he'd be like, hey, you're cute. You know, I don't know how he was able to do it, but he was confident. Actually, it's probably because he was really tall. Like, I'm really short because I think he grew up to be 6'8", which is huge. 6'8" is just a really tall person. That's almost LeBron James status. I'll admit it. I'm like 5'7", 5'8" with shoes on, whatever. Who cares? So in this summer, you know, I was hanging out with Danny a lot and Danny would always be like, hey, let's go talk to those girls. You know, if we were at the movie theaters, I would just kind of tag along and I'd just sit there like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Because I would be too nervous to say anything. Like I was so bad. And he would just talk to them like nothing. So one day, our parents were driving us home and there were these girls on these bikes in our neighborhood. And Danny was like, oh, look how cute those girls are. We should go talk to them. And I was like, no, I think I'm gonna stay home and close and lock the door and not say anything. But he convinced me. So we got on our bikes. You know, I'm like, okay, fine, let's do this. Let's go. I have confidence finally because Danny's gonna be with me and I'll just hide behind him. And I remember I had my sunglasses on, my backwards hat, some headphones on, just thinking I was cool, you know? But we were trying to find them. I don't know why, honestly. Like, I don't know what I was gonna do. I would probably have ignored them. Like, once we found them, I would have been like, on my bike and then just took off. And Danny would have been like, again, where are you going? In my neighborhood, there was a Home Depot that was really close to that neighborhood. There's no other stores next to our neighborhood but a Home Depot. And we rode our bike all the way across the neighborhood to the Home Depot. And we're looking around like, okay, I'm gonna find these girls. I don't know why. And I was standing up on my bike and sometimes I would lean back. And this is where it gets really bad. But I remember leaning back while I was standing up and I looked back because Danny was on this side of the parking lot and then this car just pulls out and I turn around and it was too late. I hit the person's car, the front of their car, and my bike bounced back right into my, you know what, right into them. And if you've ever been hit there before, you know that it is one of the most excruciating pains ever. So now imagine I'm 13 years old, the bike's going so fast and it bounces back. I hit the car, boom, my life flashed before my eyes. If you've ever seen my video, my life flashed before my eyes, you remember it's like, and maybe this is where the idea came from because like it flashed before my eyes and then I had a funny video where it flashed before everyone who was around me. I think my life just flashed before my eyes.
Your life flashed before all of us.
What do you mean?
You still wet the bed? What?
But I remember hitting it and then just like that feeling of the stomach, like you just, and then I fell over. I couldn't breathe because when you get hit that hard there, you cannot breathe. You cannot do anything, to be honest. You're just like helpless. And I rolled underneath the person's car because I couldn't breathe. And the person was like, "What are you doing?" So they were like upset that I hit their car, even though I think technically, because I'm a pedestrian, like it wasn't my fault. I was just like in so much pain, and I was just like kind of trying to cry. But I felt like I couldn't breathe for like 10 minutes. I was underneath their car, like dirty, just like moving around. Didn't want to come out for two reasons. One, I was scared because I was like, my mom is gonna be so mad at me that I went like looking for these girls to be like, "Hi, my name is David," and maybe never talk to them again. And not only that, I hit someone's car. I probably dented, I don't know. I hit him with my bike. So I'm thinking I'm getting in trouble. I remember they were looking underneath like, "What are you doing? Come out!" And I finally rolled out and I was like, "I hit my private parts." Like in 8th grade, I still kind of had an accent. You've heard this before. I didn't know how to speak English till I was about 5 or 6 years old. So I still had like a pretty heavy accent. I was like, my private parts. And I was like starting to cry and I was like, "Ah." And they're like, it's okay. It was an accident. Now looking back at it, it was their fault probably because they just pulled out without looking. But I thought it was my fault. Now this person is like, okay, they're gonna drive off. And now they like left. And I'm in pain, and it hurts. Like it's not just like the moment, because if you ever been hit, in that general area, your balls, testes. After this moment, everybody knew I went to the hospital for getting hit there, and my friends would always be like, "Why are you so testy, bro? Like relax, you're so testy." And I was like, dumb. Anyways, I'm crying there and I'm just like bawling my eyes out. My friend Danny's like, "Well, we should get home." We didn't have cell phones, right? We didn't have any communication with our parents. Like when we went out, it was just like we were gone, and our parents had a lot of trust. And nowadays, you got a GPS on the kid and you're like, go 5 feet and that's it. Don't leave the driveway. And I had to ride my bike in that much pain all the way home, and it was already dark. So it's getting bad because not only am I in pain, I'm like now anxious. Like my parents are like probably wondering where I am. I'm in pain, crying the whole time, me. My parents used to call me El Pato, like duck face, when I cried, because I cried like this. And when we finally get home, my mom is there waiting at the door, just angry. And I don't know what I was more afraid of, the pain that I was feeling physically or emotionally when I saw my mom. "Where were you? I told you to come back before the sun goes down." This is all in Spanish, The chancla's out, double chancla maybe this time. And it seems like my dad's there too, whipping his belt around. They're like ready. It's like the Avengers, like Thor with the hammer. And they're just waiting at the door ready to get me. I just start bawling and I'm like, "I hit myself. Oh man, this hurt." And they're like, "Go to your room. We don't even want to hear it." But I'm like limping now, and they didn't know that it was that bad. And then Danny was like, "Yeah, we were just looking for these girls." And even then my mom got even more upset. I'm like, "Why'd you have to say that?" And she's like, "You went out looking for girls? I can't believe you. You're only 13 years old. You shouldn't even be thinking about that. You can't even, wipe your butt properly." That's what she would say in Spanish. "Te puedes limpiar la cola?" I go to my room and I'm just like laying on the bed, like just crying. And then finally, my mom comes in and she's like, "What were you doing out there?" And I was like, "You heard Danny. You heard him. We were looking for these girls and then we couldn't find them. And then I hit this car and I hit my, And my mom was like, "What?" Like they were kind of upset. I think now they knew, like, okay, it was more serious. They were like, "Where's this person? Why did they leave?" And I was like, "I think it was my fault." And then they were like, "Where does it hurt?" And I'm like, "Well, in my balls, Mom." It was just hard to say that to her. I'm embarrassed because I'm already like 13 years old, so I don't want to, talk to my parents about my private parts, about, where I got hit. But also I was in pain. Calls my dad in. She's like, "He's hurting. He can't even walk." we have to check, his private parts. And I'm like, oh man, now it's getting really embarrassing because now I got to show my parents my private parts. And it's been a long time. I was like probably like 3 years old the last time. And I wouldn't let them. I was just like, no. But they're like, we have to if we need to see what's wrong. Like, does it hurt that bad? And I'm like, yes. It hurts that bad. So my dad takes him to the hospital. It's still in a lot of pain. Like, I didn't know the extent the injury was. Okay, and once again, as a 13-year-old, the closest you ever get really to like anybody seeing you is like the physical. They're like, cough. Besides my physical, never really had to experience this. So we get called into the hospital, and it's my dad, and then it's me, and then the doctor walks in. And they're like, oh, you're gonna have to take off your pants. And I'm like, are you like serious? Like, oh man, it was so embarrassing. So I literally like took my pants off, and I'm closing my eyes. Like, if I close my eyes, my dad's not gonna see, If I close my eyes, the doctor's not gonna see. So like I pulled my pants down, and I'm just like, just free for the world to see, The doctor's like, oh wow, oh man, like, oh yep, there's something wrong here. And I'm like, So what happened was, one of my, balls, my proper term, I guess, is testicles. I don't want to say it too loud. My kids are there. I know it's kind of a weird situation going on here. Why am I doing that with my hands? Gosh, it got swelled up and it got like pushed back, which was weird. So they're like, we're going to have to do an ultrasound or whatever that is. I don't know if you know what it's like when they do an ultrasound for a baby. They put like this goo on the stomach, and then they like have this little device, and then you can see inside. The doctor was male, and the technician was a female, so that was even harder as a 13-year-old. I'm like, oh man, now a woman is gonna see this. Like I said, I wasn't even good with girls, and now like not only did my dad see, this doctor's gonna see, now a woman's gonna see it. I'm like, I'm losing it. I'm like, this is the worst day of my life. I might as well streak somewhere, like at the beach, and everybody see me. So then they put the goo on my, balls, and then they start looking like with the ultrasound, like, oh, let's check in there, and then it's hurting, and it's awkward, and it's just like the worst day. I'm just like sitting there like, this is the worst, like this day couldn't have gone any worse. And it turns out that like it hit me so hard that one of my veins swelled up down there. I know, gosh, why am I being so many details? But this is the truth. This is the story. It just like swelled up there, and it like pushed back one of my, balls. So it was like nothing like serious. And they're like, oh, thank goodness that nothing else happened, because sometimes like it bursts if you hit it too hard, or sometimes like it pinches and then you need surgery, or they have to like take one of them away, and that would have been the worst. And the ultrasound said, technician was like, you're gonna be fine, just put some ice on it. That was my story, okay? Like, I had to say it. Like, I didn't know how else to say this, but that is my story time. It was not a good situation. From that point on, like I said, I was never confident with girls, and I was even more non-confident with girls. Everything worked out because now I have 2 kids, so it's not like, nothing was working anymore. I have my children, everything's fine, because every time I tell it, I gotta tell people that, it pushed back, and now I'm just, let's just leave it at that. So that was the time, that I went to the hospital. So thank you for hearing my story of a very awkward, embarrassing one. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.